welcome, welcome to this episode of the Will Podcast. I am so delighted to be with Estelle Winsett. And Estelle, if you don't know her, she is an attorney turned personal stylist, and she works exclusively with women attorneys to empower them through their style so they show up as their most authentic selves. And she really helps women stand out from the crowd with their own signature style. And if you don't follow Estelle on LinkedIn and all the other platforms, we'll have links below for you to connect with her, for you to watch what she does, both with her own personal stories and styles and how she helps clients. Welcome back, Estelle, I have to say, because full disclosure, Estelle and I recorded a conversation months and months ago. When I went to pull it and get it ready for the podcast, we couldn't find the recording. And I share that because there's this, I appreciate when people I follow and I listen to their podcasts say that they have tech issues, that they have fails, and it's just real. It's just the reality of running your own business. So I'm extra appreciative, Estelle, for your grace and coming on to re-record.
I'm excited to be here.
Okay, great. So tell us a little bit about your story of how you got into lawyering. Take us back into as a young lawyer and why you went to law school and your early career.
Yeah, so I come from a family of lawyers, my dad being the biggest influence on me. And as a little girl, I would go into his office and help him answer phones. I would follow him in court. And my dad is really passionate. He's retired now, but he's still super passionate about the law. And he just instilled in me at a young age the need to want to help people who need an advocate. And he did mainly plaintiff's work. So he did a lot of people, helping them get Social Security benefits, things like that. And I just saw how much joy and passion he had in his job. And so from a very young age, I think it was fifth grade, I declared I was going to be a lawyer. And so I didn't really deviate from that. I just went straight through. In law school, I loved to meet court. Definitely litigation is in my blood. And so I started off as a defense litigator. So I did insurance defense litigation, med mal defense, and then ultimately employment law defense. And so I practiced for about 7 years here in Memphis, and I loved it. I really did. It was to some extent, it was kind of a love-hate relationship because I realized that I was having a hard time separating my work from home. And so worrying about a case consumed a lot of my off time. And I knew I was getting ready to start a family and I wanted to be present with my kids. And so that's where I kind of started my first looking into, well, what else can I do with my law degree? But I don't know if I answered all your questions.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't remember that your dad was a lawyer also. Like mine was too, but my dad lost his way ethically, right? And so I would have been like you. I would have gone into law, but I went into public health and then coaching, right? But my dad he also really loved being a lawyer, and he was a criminal defense attorney. And so I also shadowed him in court and went into his office to help and filed his yellow scratchy legal pad notes in this crammed filing cabinet.
Get away from them.
You can't get away from them.
My legal pads and my pens.
I love it. So you were getting ready to start a family, and then what happened? Did you stop practicing? Like, what happened next in your career?
Really just started looking at, there's got to be another way I can use what I've done in a way that is more family friendly, or that I can separate work from home. And so I just started exploring all the options available to me. And one of them was being a contract attorney. So I'd heard about that. And that back in the day, this was a while ago, it wasn't as common. And I went in to meet with a gentleman here in Memphis who was running an office that did that placed lawyers with firms. And it just so happened that he was looking for someone to help him run the business. And so I kind of fell into that first job because I thought I was applying to be a contract attorney. And then he asked me if I wanted to come work for him, which was really fun. And he was a wonderful mentor. I worked for him for about 6 years. And that was an interesting time for me because that's when I learned about the business of the practice of law, because I was directly working with employers, firms, and in-house legal departments who were looking to find particular candidates. So I got to really understand, what is it they're looking for? How can I then advertise that and find the right fit? So I was playing matchmaker, but my day-to-day consisted of a lot of resume reviews and interviewing people. And it just so happened that there was an opening at the law school here, which was my alma mater, the University of Memphis Law School. They were looking for a dean of career services, and people kept coming to me and telling me, you'd be great. And so I just started researching it. I talked to other people who were deans of career services in law schools. I asked them, what are the most important skills? Trying to figure out, what are my transferable skills? How can I do this? And so I ended up applying for that job. It was my first real job where I did the research, I did the informational interviews, and I was ready. I had a business plan, 60 days or whatever, and because I had done all the research. It was really fun. They had never seen anything like that.
Wait, did you originate the position there? Had they had one before, or you originated it?
Well, it's a combo. They had someone before. He actually had been the dean when I was there in law school. He'd been there for 15 years, but it kind of lost a little bit of interest and steam. And so he had been absent. So there had been no one in that position for 10 months.
Okay,
when I started. But the great news is they wanted me to build it from the ground up. I was up for the challenge. That's when I started to really lean into my entrepreneurial strengths and being able to craft creative solutions and build a program from the ground up.
I love it. Okay, so it was very entrepreneurial even within the university. So far, you have gone out there and started talking to people. This is how you found these opportunities, right? You were out there talking to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I wasn't looking for that particular role at the time. But then when I started doing the research, I was like, okay, I really like this opportunity. And then when I was at the law school, I did that for a few years and I really enjoyed it. As it turned out, we got a new dean and that made not quite as enjoyable of a work life. We weren't on the same page as much as his predecessor had been. And so I started looking at the corollary to what I was doing and seeing, I knew there was a law firm corollary that did the same type of thing. And so I started doing the research there. So what I was teaching the law students about doing the informational interviews, talking to people who were in roles. And I knew there was a wide range of roles that were available in law firm settings.
Yes.
And so through the process of talking to people, I had really narrowed it down to professional development was what I wanted to do as opposed to recruiting and all that kind of stuff. I think I did let it be known that I was looking for something like that. I didn't want to leave Memphis. And, I was just kind of putting it out in the universe and a position became available at a firm that had a Memphis office and they were looking for their first director of professional development. Same thing, did all my work. It was funny.
Wow.
When I went to apply for the position, they had taken the job posting down because they had been flooded with resumes. And so I had to go through the back door and find someone at the firm that my sister knew to then get it to the person's hands.
Wow.
Anyway, really had to use my career services skill set.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure the same things you would teach students, you really had to put into practice, right?
Exactly. The relationship building and networking. So I got that job. And again, it was fascinating because I was able to build something from the ground up. So I did that for about 8 years. Kind of a similar thing. I got
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years. Yeah. I loved it. I loved the creativity, being able to implement programs that were training the students or the lawyers at different levels. And then kind of same thing. I got a different management, one that wasn't quite as willing to give me as much autonomy as my previous one had been. And as a creative type, it was a little stifling. I wanted to do more. I knew I could do more. And so at the time I was doing personal style on the side. And
interesting.
It's really fun and rewarding. That little voice that I should be doing this just kind of kept getting louder. And so ultimately I left almost 2 years ago and went full time into my style business. So that was kind of a circuitous journey of how I got where I am.
There's a lot of threads I want to pick up on. Okay, and first, let's talk about those core elements that are helpful when someone is looking to make a career change out of law into something else and they don't know what else yet, right? You didn't do a coaching program like Will, you did this on your own, but a couple of things that I want to highlight, which are the core steps that I teach. So I just want to name kind of how I see they showed up for you to be helpful to other people so they can kind of hit those pillars on their path.
Absolutely.
Right? So you got clear on what the elements you were. I use the acronym EASE, right? You got clear on the elements of what you want in your life, that first E. You wanted to be in Memphis. You wanted to be able to leave work at the office so that you could be present with your kids. So then you found that first job and that kind of scratched an entrepreneurial itch. You wanted to do something more creative, more problem solving. So these are some of the elements I hear in your stories. Does that resonate? And then you kind of stumbled into we brainstormed appealing possibilities. That's the A in the EASE acronym. You kind of stumbled upon that first office manager or business manager for the law firm role. And then that led you into what else? And then career services. Mm-hmm. So you were okay, those are appealing possibilities. And then you talk to people to vet them. So I just want to make this very plain for people that these are the steps.
True. I did a lot of informational interviews because I wasn't sure that the scope was pretty wide of different things could have done. And I wanted to look at the universe of possibilities and then narrow the one that was going to be the best fit for me.
Exactly. And those informational interviews, what did they do for you doing all those informational interviews?
Well, first of all, they allowed me to get a handle on what the different roles were in position titles. And if you look at the professional development or law firm roles. There's so many. And if you just see these terms, you don't necessarily know what they mean. And different firms have different meanings for words. And so it really helped me get to the core of what the day-to-day responsibilities were, what the hierarchy was in terms of within the firm structure itself. For the law school side, it was really, what are the expectations? Find out who are the key players that you need to do both of the law firm and the law school position. My first, 3 months was doing a needs analysis where I was talking to key players about what did they see that they needed in this role. And so I was really getting the buy-in, but also someone who had that institutional knowledge to give me, here's what's been missing and what we'd like.
Right. So really, again, vetting, like, is this the right thing to fit with my skills, my interests, my natural gifts and talents? You're a very personable person, right? You like people, you like talking to people. There's some people who are more introverted, more extroverted. There's no judgment about it, but like that kind of role like suited you.
It did. I loved litigation. So I did a lot of training where I was speaking and on my feet and responding. I liked helping people. It was kind of that same thing that was my dad's goal, and just helping people get better.
And let's talk a little bit about the mindset, because so the S in the EASE model is study and research, right? So we've got elements, appealing possibilities, study and research, and those informational conversations are a core part of that. But one of the things I see clients get tripped up with is they think they're going to be bothering someone if they reach out for an informational conversation. What were some of the stories you were telling yourself as you reached out and did that information gathering through informational interviews?
Well, I had a bit of a strategy to it. That was because I love learning and I was building departments in both of the different arenas. I went to a lot of conferences and I wanted to learn as much as I could, especially about, hot topics, relevant issues, things like that. And what I learned is that there were a lot of people who were regular speakers at these events. They put a lot of time and effort into the presentations that they did. And so I made it a habit to always introduce myself and to thank the speakers for speaking, and then to follow up with an email, again, thanking them. And so I knew that these were people who were interested in helping other people because they had taken the time to do a presentation. I knew they were passionate about the topics because of seeing and hearing them on the presentations. And so it was almost an easier ask. One thing I always would advise students, and I took the same lesson, is I would thank people and I would let them know after the fact how I implemented what they told me, so that they knew that they weren't wasting their time talking to me and that I was actually putting to use what they had said and how it had turned out for me. And that was always very gratifying for them to be able to know that they were part of my solution and I wanted to bring them in.
That's such a beautiful example of a couple of things, of using conferences as a place to grow your network and expand relationships and go to like industry leaders who are showing up at a conference to share their knowledge, share their expertise, share generously. And you had the gumption to go ask them. And even though it was strategic, like not everybody would walk up to the front of the room and say, thank you for your presentation. What was the story you were telling yourself in your head that propelled you into that strategy?
It's almost just like a knee-jerk reaction. Like I love learning and I just was so appreciative. I can't even to this day go to a conference without taking notes, even if I am not like I went to a conference where it was on the law and I'm not practicing law anymore. I mean, I still have my license and I was still taking notes. Like it's just the way my brain works because I love to learn. I'm just so appreciative. I need to go tell them how great.
That's so beautiful. That's great. If that's what it is for you, that's what it is. That's so beautiful. I love that you know that about yourself, that you love to learn. And it's just like, I just feel appreciative for it and want to say thank you. So genuine. And that kind of connection is just beautiful. So thanks for sharing that. Because I think people really get caught up in like, oh, I'm asking them for something. They're busy. They're more important, whatever the story is. But you're just coming from appreciation. And that I think has a huge impact.
Yeah. And I think too, especially the more I went on in my roles where I was in charge of giving presentations, I had a lot of empathy for speakers, especially if you're in a big room, you don't know if anyone's paying any attention or if they're on their phone. And so my husband always jokes because I'm a big nodder and I make eye contact, I nod to speakers. I want them to know that I'm listening and I appreciate what they're saying and to encourage them, like because you do know some people.
Totally. Oh my God.
Phone.
Oh my gosh.
He says I'm an aggressive nodder.
I'm the same. I have to really actually on podcast recordings and on coaching calls, I have to really not keep myself from nodding the whole time because
I'm listening and enjoying. Yeah. I also want to give that feedback because anyone who takes that time to put something together, I mean, that's something that they're doing on their own time. The least you can do is listen and take it in. And usually I'm thrilled by what they're saying.
That strength of learner. Have you ever done your Strengths Finder assessment?
Yes.
And is learner in your top 5?
Yes.
Yes, it is, right. So, and I think that's such a valuable thing to know about oneself. We do that with all the members of Will. It's one of the very first things we do.
Well, no, this is the Via character, but mine are love, humor, love of learning, creativity.
So I think within your strengths finder, I'm sure learners in your top 5.
Yeah.
All right. That's great. It's those criteria, those elements that you want. You want it based on yourself. So you have this thirst for knowledge. You're in this professional development role at a law firm. You've been there 8 years, but you're starting to do some personal styling on the side.
Yeah.
So tell us how you started dipping your toe into that.
Yeah. So as a child, I loved style. I think back to different times in my life where I had certain signature styles. Like high school, I used to wear these big bows, and that was just me. And I literally would find the bow I want and then craft an outfit around it. I think says a lot. It was just fun. And that was kind of me. And then in law school, I feel like that creative side of me sort of died a very slow death. Head down, do good work, black, very boxy suits. And so I didn't even realize it. My husband, when we first started dating, told me, "Do you realize that you wear all black?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know that." And I just was like, whatever. Of course, I blew him off. It had just been a thing that wasn't part of my life anymore. Yeah, I found a clothing brand that I really liked. Someone invited me to this show. The brand's called Cabby. It was fun, bright colors. They were clothes that fit a woman's body. And I just got excited for the first time about clothes. And I hadn't had that in a really long time. So that was probably maybe 10 years or so ago. I kind of fell into being a Cabby stylist because the lady who sold the clothes went out of town. And I was like, well, I got to get my clothes stylist. And so it was kind of a sort of haphazard way of getting into it. But then I started learning about how to dress different body shapes and how to help women feel put together and how to create outfits. And I started having my attorney friends come to me, and they were really struggling because they couldn't find clothes that fit their bodies. You know, childbirth does a number on a lot of times with body shape. You know, now I'm in perimenopause. There's so many hormonal changes that women go through. And they just almost kind of given up and thought that they were the problem, their bodies were the problem. And so, you know, it was always my favorite to have someone who kind of begrudgingly would come to a Cabby show and just say, "I'm here for my friend." And I'd be like, "Well, can you humor me and just try something on?" And I would find something that would be flattering, and just to see their eyes light up to realize that, wait a minute, there are things out there that could work for me. And seeing that transformation was really kind of what got me hooked into wanting to do more of it.
Nice. Okay, good. It pulls together like who you are, what you always loved. You know, like I've got someone a Will member who was on the podcast also, Jenny McKee, who one of her childhood from the time she was 15 or 16 interests was astrology. And she's now turned it into a business. So I like to say interests can turn into income.
Yes, especially when you realize that the stuff that comes easily to you doesn't to others. And I learned that later, and I realized, oh, whoa, I just didn't think it was any big deal. But then I realized I could help people. And so that there was something there.
I love that. That is so true. That like what makes each of us special and unique is not commonplace.
Right.
It's actually the total opposite. And I tell Will members this all the time when we do their strengths finder, it highlights those things. And then I say, you know, these are the things that make you special and unique. And it's human nature to assume that everyone is good at this stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm not great at personal styling. You are. Take us into the ways it was like really feeding you. It was helping people. It was creative. Take us then into how you decided to really go into business with it.
Yeah, you know, I think I had mentioned earlier, there were some turning points where I realized that I had this entrepreneurial spirit that never in a million years thought I had that in my, I think I used to say I'm not a creative person. I mean, I just didn't think that was anything for me. And so like, I think just kind of always thinking about wanting to own something and build it from the ground up. So I had done it twice for other organizations.
Yeah.
So the thought of doing it for myself was really exciting. And so I had done a lot of business coaching. I think true to form as a lawyer, I took as many personal style certifications I could take. I did a lot of coaching, you know,
wow.
You never really know you're ready until you're ready kind of thing. But I had this interest for a while. I just wasn't 100% sure how it was going to manifest. And so, yeah, like I said, I was doing it on the side. And I also started to just see, well, it's really the transformation that got me hooked is, you know, getting able to experience through my clients' eyes what their life was like afterwards.
Yeah.
And getting the text messages where I'm getting compliments. I'm some stranger at the, you know, post office, loved my dress, you know, just little things that, you know, like I'm getting goosebumps. So it's just those dopamine hits of how it's impacting people's life. Like people think, oh, style, you know, some people think it's superficial, and it's really what it could do for you. And so seeing the overall transformations of my clients was really addictive. And I wanted more women to feel that way, because when you aren't worrying about the style and you're not second guessing what you're wearing, you can show up in your zone of genius. And it was one of those things too, that is almost insidious. Like I think a lot of people don't realize how much brain chatter goes on worrying about what you're wearing or
Yeah.
not feeling comfortable and how that's impacting how you're showing up. If you start fidgeting a lot, then people are distracted by you and that takes away from your authority. So it's things like that I started to see, wow, this is a tool that I really think if women would hone in on it, then their performance is going to go up. And it does. It's so much more than just the clothes.
That's so interesting. It's both superficial and not. It's like superficial and really deep. I mean, it's surface level because it's what you're showing the world, but we're also showing the world like who we are by how we show up and what we wear, right? And I wore my little pink and orange dress I was like, ooh, that'll be with the sleeves. I'm like, like I wanted to dress for you today. And it's a dress that makes me feel good and happy also.
It's a dual purpose. It's showing other people who you are, and that impacts how they react to you. But it's the self-care of if you see no one else, you see your own reflection in the mirror. And if you don't feel good about what you're wearing, you're not as motivated to do work. You probably just want to sit on the couch.
Yeah. I'm just having this insight as we're talking that it's like another should, right? And so I think when like you and I are really very much aligned in the business of personal transformation for women lawyers, whether they stay in the practice or out, but it's not like this is how you should dress. This is what you should do. You should just be grateful you have a job and just put on the gray shirt or the boxy suit or whatever it is. But this is about not living from the shoulds. This is about living from my authentic self and my desire to be to shine in the world.
Yes. And it's funny that you talk about shoulds because I was doing a style presentation in Chicago last week. It was an attorney friend of mine and we put it on with a lot of other women attorneys. And one of the people asked about trends and Michelle just started laughing. I said, I really am. She's like, what's not in? I'm like, I refuse to go there. I don't think that's helpful. I think that you should wear what you love. I don't think there's the in or the out. That drives me crazy.
The only should is you should wear what you love and what represents you. That's beautiful. But I think finding that out can be really hard for women when we live in a world of so many shoulds, especially women lawyers are, again, I was just on a call earlier today. I should just be grateful for the job I have, especially in this climate. Who am I to think I have something else to offer? And I should just stay small and keep my head down.
Feeling thoughts. Ugh.
Yeah. I think anyone who's listening to this or watching this wants to expand, wants to show up more fully, wants to feel happier, wants to wake up without drudgery, wants to go do something that they care about and be lit up. So why don't you tell us a client story about how your work has helped you do that?
Yeah, it's so funny. I was just talking to someone and it reminded me of, I really like a good style challenge because part of my brand is about creative solutions and being innovative. And I had a client come to me who had some orthotic issues and she could only wear Hoka tennis shoes. And I don't know if you're familiar with that brand, but they're bold, bright color. I mean, they're not there's nothing inconspicuous about them. And so,
and they got a big thick sole. Yeah.
Totally. And she's like, I'm just embracing this because this is the only pair of shoes that I've been able to find that actually are comfortable and I can walk in them. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, this is going to be the focal point. We are going to create all of your outfits from your Hokas. And I'm like, are you open to me finding several different colors of Hokas? She's like, yes, I am. And so I was like, we're doing it. And so it kind of reminded me of my bow days where I used to like my bows and build my outfit around it. But it was like, instead of being sheepish that you have to wear tennis shoes, just go all in and being like, this is my signature style. And it was just so fun because, I think in that challenge, it was about helping her find outfits that could look business casual, that didn't just look sloppy, that looked intentional because you didn't want to look like, I didn't have anything to wear. I just threw on some shoes. No, they were part of the signature style. And so something like that was really fun. And then she was able to really feel confident in what she was wearing and that there was a purpose. So that was just a kind of one that I just thought of earlier today. That
I love it. Like you said, like your bow, you built the whole outfit around her Hokas, like your bow. Yeah, I love it. So let's talk a little bit about how your lawyer skills and experience serves you. And not just lawyer, because you were in professional development. I mean, you left the actual practice, and you've maintained your license. So I'm curious about that too. Let's talk about how all the skills you acquired, the being a lawyer, the lawyering, the business development, again, the coaching and teaching and training that you did, how those are all showing up for you. In what ways do those show up for you in your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, the lawyer skill that I probably use the most is research. I find that I like to assess all the options out there and then come up with the most creative, best solution. And so that's been true, like I said, in the HOKO situation, or, just helping someone tap into who they are. I have a really unique gift of being able to translate someone's style preferences into professional clothes, because I think that kind of ties in my law firm experience. Like, I know what you need to wear to look like a lawyer, but I also know how to go right up to the edge of adding in that personality, not going too far. And I think it's kind of hard to articulate, but having been in those rooms, having been in all the different scenarios that women lawyers face, I've been to law firm retreats that are super casual. Well, how do you navigate that and still look put together? And there's so many different levels of formality of dress that women lawyers face. I've been to the client receptions, the cocktail receptions, the galas. I've been to court. I argued trials. So I understand that environment. And so it's just knowing how to give my clients comfort that I'm going to help you find something that feels like you, but you're going to walk in the room and own it and not feel that you have crossed some kind of a dress code line.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I just wrote down, this thought came to me for you. It's like how to be taken seriously without being too serious.
Yes, absolutely. Because the thing is, like, when a part of us dies, if we're wearing something that doesn't feel true to who we are, we evolve over time, and our style should as well to reflect where we are. I always say, if you're a partner, you're not going to be wearing the same thing that you wore for law school interviews.
That's right.
Your style should be a reflection of your years of experience, of the message you're trying to send. And a lot of times with women, it's building their authority. And what you wear is the first communication. When you walk in a room, that's what talks before you open your mouth. So it's important to be able to craft that narrative. And it can be fun. Like, I love pink and fun things. And the other little known fact I think about style is that it's an introvert's dream. If you are going to a conference and you're wearing something really interesting, people are naturally drawn to you and come up and say, "Oh, I love your earrings," or "Tell me about those shoes." And it's starting a conversation where all you have to do is stand there.
All you have to do is stand there, right? And show up who you are. And then actually last night I went to a party and it was like it was a book launch event, and I wore this pink and white and orange Mary Mecco dress. And like someone came up to me because like I had chosen to wear something that kind of stood out. I mean, there were lots of beautiful, amazingly dressed women, but I was like, I'm going to use this to show a little bit of who I am.
Standing out, but still being appropriate.
And so what are some of the impacts like that lawyers tell you, your customers tell you that it has for them professionally and personally?
One client that came to me was very petite, and she just said, "I can't wear blazers." She's like, "Blazers just don't work for me." I'm like, maybe we could find some that are proportionate to you. And are you open to, trying to figure this out? And, every woman has some body shape or body thing that they think is weird or unique. We all have our own stuff, right? And just her being, and now she has a closet full of blazers that she loves, that she feels confident in, and they fit her body. They're not overpowering her. It's usually gleeful type text messages. "My boss just told me how great I look." And like, it's just their day-to-day life changes in such a happy, fun way that like, I never know when it's going to come, but I usually know I'm going to get some kind of a text message of like someone super happy because they're feeling good about themselves.
What's I think important about that also is like a blazer is an important, wardrobe element for a woman attorney, right? We think about the classic headshot of like the black blazer, the white pearls. So it's again, like to help her feel powerful, to help her feel appropriate, to help her be her true self in her role and be taken seriously without being too serious.
Commanding the room when you walk in.
Entrepreneurship and working totally for yourself is a very different game than doing professional development for a law firm. And I know you love learning. And I think to be an entrepreneur, one has to be either love learning or interested or be willing to really do it because there is so much to learn. How else has, your lawyering or like leaning into and really knowing your natural gifts and talents been helpful to you in building your business?
Yeah, I think some of the things that I learned throughout the different positions I held kind of tapped into a lot of marketing. When I was at the legal recruiter, it's like, how do you position yourself to be the best candidate? It's sort of like, how do you make your best argument? And so it's all positioning, I guess, is the way that I think I look at it, and making the best argument you can. And that's something that I do. I'm fascinated by how you market yourself. And I feel like women in particular struggle with, they don't want to be, "Oh, don't look at me," or, they feel like if they're showing up too strong, on that it's going to be a backlash, that someone's going to say, oh, you think you're all the whatever. And I think that is it holds back so many women in showing up confidently and in their power. And so that was another really big draw for me, is like wanting women to feel like you can take up space. Please take up all the space and don't let these limiting beliefs hold you back. And so much of that mind chatter that we have going on when we're not feeling confident in what we're looking like, that just takes a lot of space that pulls away from your energy and your focus.
Yeah. And I think I really see that parallel between like showing up fully, showing up as yourself, and how you show up in your marketing. And like, you know, I see you on LinkedIn and you're because that's where I hang out the most, and you're playful and you're exuberant and you take up space there. I love how your marketing is a reflection of what you help people do in their own marketing of themselves, even if they're never an entrepreneur. They're just how they're putting themselves out there in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think fun is so important. I think we don't talk about it enough. This is life. You don't want it to be a grind every day.
1,000%. There's so much grind there. What would you say to a woman lawyer out there who's feeling stuck, who's feeling unhappy, whether in the practice or just in her role? Because again, even though, you know, I'm helping women figure out what else, kind of the internal of what else they could do, what they'd really love, what lights them up. You're helping them do that kind of on the external as well. What might you tell a woman lawyer who's just feeling stuck and unhappy?
It's stuck and unhappy with their style or just in their career, or?
Both. Because they're just like where they are in their life. Like you're saying, life is supposed to be fun. This is pretty short-lived here. We're
your one precious.
Yeah, this is your one precious life. Yeah. What would you have to say to a woman who's feeling in that place, who might be listening?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say there are always options, and you need to do some self-reflection if you're feeling stuck, because you don't have to settle with where you are. And if you realize that you have so many skill sets as a lawyer that you could use in a lot of different scenarios, and you don't want to wake up 20 years from now and just wonder what you did with your life. You know, like you get to create it. You get to be intentional. The best way I know of to enjoy your life is to find your strengths and lean into them. And if you're in a position where you're not doing that or able to do that, then you're just killing a small part of yourself every day. And so take the time to reflect, talk to people, look at your options and know that there are options out there. If you're really, really stuck in terms of career, hire a coach that can help you figure out, what lights me up now, and not feeling guilty that what you thought was going to be your career isn't going to be your career. I had to go through a lot of that identity shifts from being a lawyer to, yes, I still have my license because I worked too hard to get it, and never say never, right? Also, I don't want to I've heard horror stories about people having to reinstate their licenses and all the hours and hours of CLE they have to make up. So I'm just going to keep on rolling.
And I think that's a really powerful decision also. You are a lawyer turned personal stylist. You're still a lawyer. It is an important identity. You did work really hard for it. It has a lot of gravitas. And it doesn't mean, like you said, it doesn't mean you can't do something else also.
Exactly. I think there's so many more options available to us now than there used to be, but you can forge your own path. It's not without risk, but the rewards are pretty high.
Beautiful. All right. Where might people find you if they're like, yeah, I like Estelle's vibe, I want to work with her?
Yeah. Well, LinkedIn is probably where I am the most. And so I'll send you the link to that. I do have a LinkedIn newsletter that I do weekly, and I have a newsletter for my list. So I'll make sure you have all the links there.
Okay, good. Please. Yeah. And we'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah. Where I hang out the most.
Yeah, me too. It's really a joy. I'm just going to close with this one little story. I've never shared this publicly before yet, but I went to a friend's birthday party, and this man who I see every year at my friend's birthday party, I'm like, hey, I'll call him Bill. Hey, Bill, how you doing? And he's like, good. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you for a while. He's like, well, I see you almost every day on LinkedIn. And I was like, wow. And then he said it to me again later and and I was like, clearly he was telling me you're taking up too much space in the world. Yeah. And I left that party. I was thinking about him. I was like, hey, next time you see me on LinkedIn, say hi. I never, you never say hi to me. I just was made it kind of light with him. I was so pissed for that subtle dig of you're taking up too much space. So I want to really applaud you and all the other women entrepreneurs and people who show up on LinkedIn and put themselves out there and take up space. But I really want to applaud how you do it, Estelle, with a lot of joy and with, I've noticed, childhood photos, the thing with the bow, just sharing yourself, because I think that speaks volumes about how you can help someone share who they are. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That really means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if this could be helpful to you or another woman lawyer in your life, please share it along. Thanks, Estelle.
Thank you.